Hey everyone, let's take a look at a vintage Casio and compare it with its reissue. This watch here is an AQ-450. To the best of my knowledge, this watch came out in the 1980s, and the AQ in the name means that it's this kind of anodigi watch where you have the digital section at the bottom, but you have analog at the top. There are a ton, and they still make AQ watches today, a lot. They've probably over the years made hundreds or maybe even thousands of different models. But this one has always been one of my favorites. This is the black dial version. It has this really cool grid pattern. You see it glows differently depending on the lighting. It's like dark, it's light, depending. There's also a white dial version, which is pretty rare. I almost picked one up a few years ago. I saw it at a good price. I said, oh, I'll be able to find one again later. And that hasn't been the case. They're hard to find in good shape. This watch here, despite, when we're zoomed in, we see all this dust. It's actually in relatively good shape compared to some other watches out there. The watch has a snapback. You can see it's been through something. The AQ-450, you see the 315 module. Now this is actually a metal watch. I'm not too sure what metal. I don't think it's stainless steel. I think it's just a base metal. Actually, there's a good way to tell on these Casios. If it's a stainless steel back, that means just the back is stainless steel, which means the case is not. But I'm pretty sure it is metal. I want to say like a base non-stainless steel, something, or maybe even a brass, possibly. But you can feel with the weight with this. It has, I don't want to say weighty, it is a very small watch. Watches, man, in the 80s were just small. There was this race to show how compact things could be. Yeah, 30 millimeter. Let's zoom out, kind of compare this to the reissue. The reissue is definitely a resin or plastic watch. It's chrome plated, so it looks like it's metal. But the one on the right is the AQ-800, also with the black dial, and you see they borrowed some elements. They got a lot mostly right, but as is the case with a lot of these reissues, it's almost like someone described the original to them and they make the reissue. But there's always some finer points that really make or break the watch that I think they don't capture perfectly well in a reissue. Not always, but here. You can see one of the things that I really love about this original is this integrated bracelet. You have these links here. This is the bracelet, this is the bracelet, and that is still the bracelet right up to there. The nature of how these are connected with these spring bars, they kind of overhang the case, the way how these connect. And again, that's metal going right up to here. So it has this wonderful seamless design. That does mean you cannot put on other straps, so I guess it's a downside, but I think they nailed the design in this. It's just kind of iconic. On the reissues, you see, you know what, maybe for some people this is preferable because, okay, I still have plastic on mine. I don't know, I'm probably not going to keep all three of these. But you can see it hangs down here, standard spring bar, so you can put other straps on, but there's this gap between here and here. And even this, like a chin, on this watch, it's part of the watch case, but it's trying to emulate what would be the first link or so here. The other thing I really like about the original is just that touch of red and blue, this very patriotic watch in a sense. And the reissue has alarm chrono. The original also has a seconds hand. Some watches in the AQ series do, some don't. They're comparable in size, but the watch case on the reissue is actually bigger. But if you factor in the fact that much of this bracelet can't move, this is actually bigger. Why don't we try it on? I'm wearing, as usual, a G-Shock Square, one of my favorites. To be expedient about this, I'm just going to kind of drape this over. If you saw this today, it looks like a small watch, but this was kind of the norm back in the day. And yeah, I think that's just an awesome, fun retro piece. And that integration there really sells it. It makes the watch feel small and serious, I guess. Yeah, there's a crown operated with this one. Pull it out. Oh, that's right. Yeah, my analog section, I need to fix this. I have some replacement guts. Yeah, I have another one where the digital doesn't work, but the analog does. And I've been meaning to fix these things. I just haven't set the time. I forgot about that. But the digital section, you have these two buttons here. Is this all busted? No. Chronograph mode, second time, the date, alarm mode. Oh, and that's dual time, and that's chronograph, and we're back to time. Yeah. Press and hold to set, yeah. Simple 2-button action, but the main thing I wanted to point out was the analog portion is controlled separately with crown. On the reissue, we kind of have this time with a beep. We have kind of the same functions: alarm, time. I'm looking through this camera. Yet on the reissue, the screen is like set back. It's like on the same plane as the dial on the analog portion, as opposed to being like closer to the display on the original. It makes reading it a little challenging. Pretty sure we have the same modes. We have date, everything, but we have a 3 pushers instead. We have the second button here, which you'd press and hold to set the time. Basically, these 2 pushers here have been moved both to that side. And this pusher here, instead of a crown, we just have a button that you press and hold. You would use it with like a tool like this. And you do that long enough and it just moves the hands. And so the hands on this model, on both of them, it's like 2 watches. So you can have 3 separate times if you wanted to. You could have 1 time on the analog, you could have 1 time showing on the digital clock, and then you could have a 3rd in the dual time, DL. Usually I make them the same, and then I just show the date at the bottom. To me, that's a great date display, and then I would use that as an analog display. Let's take these others, pick these others up, take a look at them. I think I've mentioned this before, that gold watches and me, like, it's very hit or miss. I have a few that do work, but the smaller the better, and I found that I really do like this one. Anything bigger than this, like these vintage Casios, gold, I don't know, they work. I think because it's saying, like, you know instantly that it's a Casio and it just fits the time period. This is a lot of fun. And then there's the white dial, which is probably my favorite. I just think it's probably the most readable. As fun as that gold one is, I think were I to keep one, I'd be keeping the silver. That's right, I say white dial, but it's really a silver dial. That's a lot of fun. Let's see, water resistance. I don't know if it says, so it says, it doesn't mention water resistance at all. Not on the back, not at the front. It may very well be the case this watch has 0 water resistance. Like, don't even get it splashed. And the new one just say WR. All these new watches have this little shield on it that means water resist. Let's zoom in on that, and that'll be it. Get a nice close look at that really cool textured grid pattern dial. Again, I wish they integrated the bracelet in with the watch, much like they did the original. But otherwise, you know, you can't beat this. Just for a fraction of the price of the original. I'm glad that they brought it back and they're not just resting purely on digital watches, that they have brought back some of their Digi watches. Yeah, these polished watches, they just are magnets for fingerprints. Isn't that special? Let's end off with another glance at the original. Can we see side by side on a zoom? Yeah. All in all, I think they did a great job. They got the battens just right. They put the word quartz there under the logo, which is pretty welcome. A lot of companies, they kind of shy away from that. But you see this one on the dial, it says alarm chronograph. And this one, since it's water resist, they put that there. And it says alarm chrono at the bottom. Yeah, I still like the colors here and the little lines that they draw. All these vintage Casios do that just to kind of indicate like the mode is this button and analog set is up here. And you see over the years it turned into just kind of put the dot where it would be. But that's that. Some awesome little Casios. This is the AQ-450, a vintage watch from the 80s, and these are all AQ-800s. Well, thank you very much.